YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and I hope you're ready for another scenario battle. You all seem to have really liked the last couple. I'm enjoying making them. It gives me a chance to interact with you and to hopefully make the videos more interactive in general. And the one for today should be a lot of fun, so let's pop it up here and show you who the winner was from the votes. It was pretty close. It came down to within 30 votes. So the winner was Jimmy Conway here, who says Battle of Heraclea, Rome versus Epirus. It was the battle where we got the term Pyrrhic victory. So let me tell you a little bit more about this battle and just kind of give you a couple backgrounds. So I will be looking at a different screen, so that's why I'm not looking directly at, well, you know what, I could put this over here. Yeah, whoop, there we go. So yeah, the Battle of Heraclea. What was the date? Well, it was July of 280 BC, I guess, as far as we know. And who were the folks who were involved? Well, obviously you had King Pyrrhus of Epirus, and for the Romans, it was during the command, the day of the fight, it was the consul Publius Valerius Laevinus, or Laevinus, or yeah, however you say it. Anyway, the forces, just kind of how it got started. Funny enough, this war must have been political because it was a fight between Democrats and Republicans. What? Are you getting into politics? No. No. Seriously, though. The democratic Greek colonies were actually kind of afraid of the Republic of Rome, and they were kind of reaching out, wanting Pyrrhus to help protect them. They didn't want to lose their independence because the Romans had started to expand their power base basically after the Third Samnite War, and so that's kind of how all this came to be. Well, what did the armies look like, and what was a little bit of the background? So the armies for the Romans and Pyrrhus were about the same strength roughly in numbers. You had about 45,200 Romans and maybe a few fewer Epirotes there. Yeah, if we walk through it just in terms of forces, it was thought that the Romans basically had, let's see, well, the Romans, yeah, so there was, 2 legions of Roman citizens and 2 of Socii, or Italian allies, basically. 600 equites and 1,800 allied Italian cavalry, and then there was some velites for skirmishers and other stuff. So grand total of infantry for the Romans, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't have the exact numbers here in front of me, forget it. Anyway, so they had 4 legions, 2 were allied. And then for Epirus, you had 3,000 Hypaspis, 20,000 Phalangites, so a phalanx, 6,000 Tarentine levy hoplites, 4,000 horsemen, including Thessalians and Tarentines, 2,000 archers, 500 Rhodian slingers, and 20 war elephants. So as we go into this, just that's kind of the background. The battle itself took place after the Romans started to cross a river. I don't recall the name of the river right now. It might be right here in front of me. Yeah, the river Ceres, it looks like. Modern is Cini. I'm guessing Cini. Anyway, so the Romans crossed the river, and King Pyrrhus attacked them right after they crossed the river. My map in Rome 2 that I'm going to use to represent it will not be perfect, but it will be, you know, and again, this is not going to be a perfect historical recreation. This is going to be a scenario. I do not actually intend to run the camera on this one because it doesn't really add much to the commentary, so let me get in here, and let's jump into the replay. I just want to use the camera for the intro on these because it really doesn't add anything to the battle itself. So the way I set up this scenario was 2 Epirote players and 2 Roman players, and I put it on the map in a similar location to where it took place, though the battlefield won't perfectly mimic it. The 2 Epirote players, I am one of them, and my job is to control the Phalangites, the Grand Phalanx. Yeah, they're not quite as deep as they would have been in real life, and this was something that was mentioned in the history, was that the Epirote Phalanx was as wide as the Roman front, but it was deeper generally, so even though they outnumbered the Romans slightly in terms of infantry, it was about the same length of line. But I have to spread a little wider here on Rome 2. And then the other Epirote player, which was Yawning Firefly, I believe, and if I don't remember, one of the players was actually the guy who suggested it. It was Jimmy Conway, and then I can't remember the other. We'll see his name at the end. And basically, he's in control of all the supporting troops. So I have the phalanx. My teammate has the supporting troops. We have archers, we have Rhodians, we have elephants, we have Tarentines, we have Thessalians. And King Pyrrhus himself is probably going to be considered to be in the Hellenic royal cavalry here. During the battle, it was actually thought at one point that he was dead, and the Romans actually started to gain an advantage. but it was Pyrrhus had supposedly switched armor with another soldier, because the Romans obviously wanted to kill him, and he was kind of trying to make sure they couldn't see him. That person died. They thought Pyrrhus was dead. The Romans started to cheer and scream and started to kind of turn the battle in their favor, but Pyrrhus was not dead. He rode up to the lines to let everybody see him fighting, which obviously probably almost got him killed again for real, but he did not die. And again, the fight in the end was a victory for Pyrrhus' troops, but most of their kills did not come until after the end of the battle while the Romans were routing. But there was a very long, protracted engagement between the phalanx and the legion, and neither one was having a whole lot of success against the other. And this was actually, I believe, the first time in history where you saw a Roman maniple come up against a Macedonian-style phalanx here. So it was definitely a clash of different styles. Now, as far as the Roman armies here, one of the Romans is controlling the Italian allies, and he has deployed over here. He's got Succi Equites, Equites Extraordinari, a Velite, and then he's got 2 Succi Extraordinari heavy infantry and 4 Succi Hastati. The Roman himself has got 5 Hastati, 3 Principe, I believe, 1 Triari, no, 2 Triari, and quite a few Velites and a couple of Equites. So in this particular battle, the Romans do have a bit of a cavalry edge in terms of numbers, but just in terms of quality, the cavalry we have is quite good, and we do have Indian war elephants as well. So to be accurate to the real battle. Now, how this transpires, obviously Rome 2 probably can't perfectly reflect how this battle took place. And of course, these players are playing it. Some players are better than others. Some make better decisions. But that's part of the fun of the scenario battle, right? Will it turn out like the original, or will it be different? So is this going to be a Pyrrhic victory for Epirus, or is this going to end up being a Roman slaughter of the Epirote phalanx? So we will see. This is in the Blade Balance mod as well. I did that because phalanx is just better represented in that mod. And again, I like the mod. So some skirmishing kind of starts off the battle. Actually, in the real battle, I believe some skirmishing started off anyway as the Romans were crossing. Pyrrhus sent the Thessalians and some others to harass the Romans as they crossed, and some Roman scout cavalry clashed with the Epirotes, and that was kind of how the battle started. Anyway, you can see here some trading back and forth, the Roman cavalry feinting at some of the skirmishers. As far as the phalanx goes, I'd like to try and be aggressive with it, but I'm going to act like I'm kind of being passive for the moment because we have long-range skirmishers and the Romans do not. However, the Romans do have a pretty big cavalry numbers advantage, and they could do a lot of damage to us with all this Italian allied cavalry. If it gets into good place, they got shock cavalry and they have good medium melee cav. So we're going to have to be careful, and they're supported by these Succi Hastati, which will be decent support units. I go ahead and give attack orders, so I'm going to march forward with the Grand Phalanx. Doesn't look as grand in Rome 2, but it looks pretty good. And we're going to attack the Romans. I want to keep them from outflanking me, so I want to push a little. I'm going to take a lot of fire here from the Velites who are supporting, and then we're going to eat some Pilla to the face as well from the Roman troops. So my phalangists are going to learn the hard way of the flexibility the Romans possess with the Pilla and the nice light infantry support here. My pike line consists of 1 Hellenic Royal Guard, representing, I guess, the commander of the phalanx in this case. And then we've got pikemen and levy pikemen out towards the flanks. So the Romans take the engagement, and we just have to watch our flanks. If we can keep the Romans off our flanks, we'll win. The Triari come in and engage as well. The Romans pretty much came straight at our phalanx here, which obviously is definitely not what they should have done. And in real life, the Romans kind of went straight at the phalanx a little bit too, and it's why they struggled to get a decisive victory. They didn't exactly utilize the maneuverability, but here the Roman cavalry is pushing around our flank, and it could get kind of dangerous. So we'll see what happens. Here comes some Succi Equites. I don't believe they're the Extraordinary, I just believe they're the regular ones. They're killing a bunch of our archers, and a nice rear charge into the phalanx here. Gonna wipe out that levy pikeman. So a nice support of the Succi Hastati, who were losing decisively. But in the center, the Romans aren't getting any breakthroughs, and they're taking quite a few losses on their weaker units, though my pikemen have suffered a great deal of losses at the hands of the Romans because of all the javelins and support. This Roman general is being targeted by our skirmishers, so the Romans may have tried to kill Epirus, or King Pyrrhus. But look at this nice Roman maneuverability out here on this flank. The Succi doing well, but here comes the war elephants. In real life, the war elephants did disrupt the Roman lines successfully for quite some time, but eventually they were dealt with by the Romans. Here, the elephants are going to crash in, and although the Romans were turning this flank in their favor, the elephants are going to start turning it back in our favor, and they are going to wreck man and horse alike. And my phalanx engagement is actually going pretty well. These guys aren't in phalanx formation, but I was bringing them up, attempting to help. I must have forgot they were out of phalanx formation, which is fine. I was taking them out of formation to make them more maneuverable. But you can see that the Roman, or on our right, the Roman defenses have been broken, and we have been successful. And where the Romans were successful, they are now dealing with rampaging Indian war elephants, and they do not have but maybe these levies here to help support, and I'm chasing them off with a group of phalanx that have dropped their pikes momentarily. So yeah, the Roman maniple is actually being outmaneuvered by the phalanx here, which is not a likely scenario. But it's absolutely what's happening. You see these Principe here not able to get around the flanks, and when they don't, their guys do not perform well. Same thing here. Romans being held back, and the elephants continue to rampage over here. Only 68 kills, but the morale victory they're giving us huge. Pyrrhus is actually engaged with the Roman cavalry here. He hasn't died yet at this point, but he is in rough shape. We'll see if the elephants can save King Pyrrhus from death. We'll see. It doesn't say general dead. And he's stabilizing. The elephant's definitely pushing out the Roman cavalry here, so at least for the moment, Pyrrhus is going to survive. But here comes a Roman bodyguard. So Publius Lavinius, or whatever, Lavinus, I think was his name. He's come in here too, and we'll see whether or not he lives. So the two generals engaging nearby. My phalanx was successful over the Romans, though it is somewhat Pyrrhic. A lot of my units took a lot of damage, but my phalanx is relatively intact at this point, but still quite a lot of damage taken, and I'm sure in real life the phalanx was just this derpy as well. Nice derp, men. Nice derp. Let's go out and check out and see if Pyrrhus lives or not. The general is not dead. And here Lavinus gets routed off the field. Sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. I haven't really looked into it too deeply. He's getting routed by the Tarentine Cav. So, anyway, the Romans end up being routed in a somewhat decisive victory here. I wouldn't say it was Pyrrhic. We did take a fair number of losses, but there was a lot of Epirot troops left. But of course, in real life, there was quite a few Epirot troops left as well. I believe the casualties were obviously a lot less severe for Epirus in the end because the Romans actually routed. But still, I mean, he always kept saying that if we have any more victories like this, we may lose the war, or something similar to that. That was the end of this scenario. Hope you all enjoyed this one. So in this recreation, Epirus still won, but was actually able to more decisively defeat the Romans. What would have happened in history had this actually taken place? Tell me what you think in the comments. Would Rome have survived? They survived after losing in real life. Would this have made a difference? Would this have been decisive? Would it have changed the course of history in Rome? Who knows? But it changed the course of history in our scenario battle here, which was just for fun. I appreciate Wolf Firefly, Yawning Firefly, Jimmy Conway. He's the one that came up with the idea, so please thank Jimmy. It was a great idea. Had a lot of fun with it, and a Mr. Gaius Marius here too. If only he had brought his reforms sooner, perhaps this battle would have gone differently. But thank you, Mr. Gaius Marius, for joining. And Jimmy played the part of the Saki teammate, which is actually kind of cool. This might be a fun one for some of you all to go do with your friends and see if you can come up with your own version of this. It was actually pretty fun to play, and I could definitely see how the Romans might be able to get an advantage under certain terms. So, yeah, so I ended up getting the most kills here just because I had a lot of infantry, and that mainline engagement gave my guys some kills again. You can see the pikes. They are not particularly crappy in blade balance mod. They're actually pretty decent. They still died of missiles, so you can see I lost a lot of men to that missile storm. Romans were doing good. They should have pulled back from that and tried to disorganize my phalanx and continue the missile storm from their velites. It was definitely an advantage that they would need to have pushed there. The Roman Italian allied cavalry also had potential to do huge damage, but when it got tangled up with those elephants and that blob, it just ended up putting that whole scenario to rest, and that was really, I think, the key thing, because they started to wrap up our left flank. Now, we were having a pretty nice victory on the right, but at least it would have made this closer and made it tougher for us, but that didn't happen. And the Roman infantry here basically just kind of fell too soon in combat. So don't underestimate those pikes in this mod. I hope you all enjoyed this scenario. I had a lot of fun with it. I will see you all back, and remember, go down in the comments and vote on what the next scenario battle is going to be. Last time it was almost a coalition battle, a 4v4 on Napoleon, France versus the coalition. If that's what you want to see, put the idea back up and vote for it. If not, and you have a new idea, go check it out. HeirofCarthage, signing out. I will see you all soon.